Hello, everyone that's coming in. Oh, Miranda, how lovely to see you there. I've just put the country I'm calling in from. So if you would like, please add the country that you're calling in from. It'll be really. So welcome to Regional Arts New South Wales' 5th panel session of the Country Air. The Country Air, presented by Regional Arts New South Wales, is a monthly online discussion panel on the key issues facing arts and culture in regional Australia. The Country Air aims to directly engage with people living and working in regional New South Wales and beyond across Australia. Today is Wednesday, the 14th of December, 2022, and it's 6 p.m. in New South Wales. My name is Dr. Sally Blackwood, and I'm your host for this evening's final Country Air panel session for 2022. Don't worry, we'll be back in 2023, so watch this space. But tonight, we're going to celebrate regional arts and culture. I'm calling in from Gamilaroi country. So to audio describe myself, I'm sitting in a white room with a large academic robe behind me. I'm dressed in a blue shirt and have a fabulous gay rainbow flag, as was instigated by some of the stories you're going to hear tonight. I've got pale skin and blondish hair. Housekeeping. So we are recording the Country Air series so that audiences are able to access this discussion online after the event. Of course, if you don't wish to be filmed, feel free to turn your video off, and I know many of you have, but if you are comfortable, do please leave your camera on, because it's really a pleasure to see your faces, and it's really nice for the presenters to chat to people rather than screens. That would be great. We encourage your participation and would love to hear your questions and comments, so please put those in the chat box. The icon is located at the bottom of your screen. Please feel free to jump in if you haven't put your country down. That's really nice to see already. And obviously, if you're experiencing any technical issues, please put that into the chat box too. Managing our chat box today in the session is Regional Arts New South Wales CEO, Dr. Tracy Callanan, and Dr. Julia Georgi, the Admin and Projects Officer at Regional Arts New South Wales, and they're going to feed the questions and the chat summary at intervals this evening. The panel session will go for an hour and will conclude at 7 p.m. New South Wales time. In a moment, I'm going to introduce the esteemed panellists and then kick off the discussion with some prepared questions. But before I introduce our speakers and lead you through the conversation, I'd like to conduct an acknowledgement of country. I acknowledge that we are gathered today across New South Wales and Australia from various First Nations countries on lands that was never ceded. I'm calling from Gamilaroi country, so I thank the custodians of this country, story and songlines, and remind myself to always tread gently like the Dinawan or the soft-footed emu across this land. So let's all tread gently. Today's discussion, celebrating regional arts and culture. So let me introduce you to our esteemed panel. We have Kerry-Ann Jones, Executive Director of Southwest Arts. Kerry-Ann joined Southwest Arts in 2015, and her career spans federal, state and local government, focusing on regional, economic and community development. Most of her career has concentrated on the southern New South Wales and northern Victoria, having lived in the region since the early 90s. Kerry-Ann is a strong consulting professional with a Bachelor of Applied Science focused on economics and marketing from the University of Canberra. Welcome, Kerry-Ann. Next, we have Dr. Tim Kirilovich, and Tim is the Executive Director of Eastern Riverina Arts. Tim is a driven project leader with a passion for creative cultural development that brings real-world change. He has worked for local government, cultural facilities, and the not-for-profit sector, shaping community and cultural projects that break down barriers and bring people together. Tim was a producer and project lead for the Arbor Festival, which we may hear about later. In 2013, Tim was awarded a PhD for his research in the role of arts and community in helping Australian communities meet emerging global challenges such as climate change and political radicalisation. Hello, Tim, welcome. And the third panellist is our fabulous Rose Marin. She's Executive Director from Southern Tablelands Arts. Rose joined Southern Tablelands Arts, STA, in 2020 from her home in Queanbeyan and Pellerin. Previously to this, Rose spent 6 years at Grafton Regional Gallery, leading diverse public and education programs, including community exhibitions at the gallery and library located across Clarence Valley. For 2 years running, Rose received Museum and Gallery Awards for Excellence. And in the years prior to starting at STA in 2016 to 19, Rose continued her career-long focus, in her own words, to engage diverse audiences with cultural content at the National Gallery of Australia as a program producer across the NGA Play, Interactive and Immersive Creative Gallery. So welcome to our esteemed panel. Thank you so much for being here. Our discussion tonight, celebrating regional arts and culture. So this is at the end of a tumultuous year, yet again pivoting in the arts and cultural sector. We're now looking at key moments tonight and special projects across New South Wales Regional Arts Development Organisations, or RADOs, to celebrate spaces, places, and especially people. We look at community-driven ideas, collaborative projects, and long lead opportunities which are changing the shape of regional communities and impacting people's lives for the better. So, to our panel, I'm going to open with a really big, fabulous question. To Tim, what is your greatest cause for celebration in 2022 and why?
Thank you so much, Sally. What a great question. There's a really simple overarching theme, I think, that we've seen this year, and it is really about the year when people who've had a crack for the first time have done better than they thought they would, right across a number of art forms and right across a number of parts of our region. And I'll give a couple of really quick examples because there's just so many people I think we need to celebrate. There's an amazing young theatre company in Wagga who graduated from university in a course that no longer sadly exists in our community, and had the absolutely balmy idea that they should start a professional theatre company in a regional town. And everybody's got behind them, but more importantly, they've just backed themselves again and again. And they just staged their second self-produced main stage show in a theatre in Wagga, fully self-funded, and they actually succeeded. It went off. And what's really exciting, in a nutshell, without going into it too much, is watching how all the local kind of gatekeepery people, the people who work at the theatre, the people who work across a range of institutions, have got behind these people and accessed every network they can find to connect them with organisations, including Griffin Theatre in Sydney and touring, potential touring venues, etc. It's just so gratifying to see that when people have that kind of grit and dedication, it doesn't always work, but it can. It really can. There's a project we run at Eastern River Inner Arts called Renew Wagga, which has been all about placing new creative businesses in empty shop fronts in the CBD of Wagga. That project's been running for about 18 months now. We had a really amazing milestone around the middle of this year where, after 12 months of operation in these kind of gifted shop fronts, we really worked closely with all three of the businesses we had to work on a plan of what next. How are you going to operate in the real world where you're paying rent, where you're operating in kind of an unsupported environment? And the milestone that I'm just so chuffed about is all three of these people, again, through bloody mindedness, grit, creativity, reinventing themselves again and again and again, have now become graduates of the program. Two of them are paying rent in the main street and succeeding, and the third one have opted to a mobile model. And we now have three new businesses in our region that are run by creatives and that are creatives who are entrepreneurially finding money to sustain themselves, and that keeps them as part of our ecosystem. So I just think people like that are the heroes here. They're incredible and deserve all the accolades that can be thrown at them. So yeah, go creatives.
That's beautiful, Tim. Thank you so much. I loved some of the words like grit and dedication, which is so incredibly important. And the fact that you talked about an ecosystem, which I think is also really key. And I think we might come back to that a couple of times in our discussion tonight. Rose, I'm going to jump to you, and I'd love to ask you the same question about what's been the standout for you in terms of who do you want to celebrate?
Yeah, and but that is a hard one. It's like asking a mum to pick her favourite child, isn't it? But I'm coming from Ngunnawal country, and I'm sitting in my blue living room with a beautiful painting behind me by one of my best mates, or Ginders, Alison Williams, who's a Mangi woman, and I have pale skin and dark hair with elfies poking through that almost don't look plastic. In this forum, they're still a bit plastic, but they're not too bad. So the project I'm really excited to talk to you about is our Artist in Residence program, because it's sort of like a little evolving one that we've been working on for quite a time in Southern Tablelands Arts, and it's just connected us with so many artists, with so many partner venues, with so many community outcomes. So it's been an extraordinary thing to see. The project commenced through some restart stimulus money that came through in 2021, and we delivered the first 2 residencies. For some reason, they were like, who wants to do a residency? And I was like, let's do 5 residencies concurrently, which was, in hindsight, a big bite to take, but certainly it was really an important one to provide some outcomes for our cultural sector, because my gosh, it was a little bit grim. So what we did is we worked with partner organisations who provided the place for the residencies to happen. So the only outcome that was asked of the artists was that it was intimately connected with the place that they landed for 2 weeks. So it was a national program. We ended up getting 130 applications from all over the nation. I think the only place we didn't get an application from was Northern Territory, so work to do there. But to really explore the Southern Highlands and Tablelands in ways that really brought so much of their creative practice to our places and our towns and our partner venues, as well as made our area inspiration on a national front. And so I was going to share screen, and I like a bit of show and tell. I have to admit, I'm much better with the visual aids. So if that's okay, I'm just going to share my screen.
Please do.
Hopefully it works, because 9 times out of 10 it does. Okay, great. So this was beautifully timed, because what we've actually done is, of course, we're not going to be able to replicate that big funding that we got through the state government. So because the program was so hugely successful, and I'll show you a little bit in a minute about some of the things that people did, like, blow your mind kind of stuff. But we've just actually worked out to actually reproduce the program, the same kind of idea with partner venues, in a way that's really financially sustainable for us without too much funding. And so it's lovely to announce to the room that we've just made the next residency for 2023, which will be Lisa Stevenson, who's going to actually live at the Queanbeyan Hive, which is it's an arts and cultural hub in the heart of Queanbeyan. And so we're going to bring a bed into one of the gallery spaces, and she's going to live there for 2 weeks. More country. We've got an elder who's coming to meet her when she first arrives, and she's also going to be mining some of the historic and art cultural collections that exist at different venues around town. So again, very much tied to place, and so we're really excited to see Lisa come in and do that. the other way that we made it, I suppose, more financially viable and also really solidified the benefit inside our region was now it's only available to people who live within one of our 7 LGAs. So this all works. I've got, oh, look at that, doesn't it? These are the 5 residencies that we've already achieved as part of the program. And so it was just such an eclectic mix. And as I said before, we were spoiled for choice. It really came down to, we could have done 130 residencies. The standard was extraordinary. So we had Jacqueline McBeath come and work. I'll just work back to front. The first one we did was Jacqueline McBeath, who came and worked as part of a residency we did in partnership with Goulburn Regional Art Gallery at Collector. So she actually lived on site with a local ceramicist and worked alongside her in the studio. She's very interested in cups as a metaphor for emotional outpourings and things. So these are some of the works that she produced. The one that we did in Murrum Bateman in Yass Valley was with Shaw Wines, and you can see here some of the extraordinary interruptions or interventions to space that Sally Kindle did, and this is sun rays that she made with fabrics that were coming out of the Heritage Sheep Shed. Just extraordinary. And what's so lovely now is Sally then subsequently went on to, they have a sculpture show, a biannual sculpture show, and that connection allowed her to be part of that post residency. So there was really lovely lasting legacy. One of the ones we're most proud of, again, how do you pick your favourite? But Von Patiker went out to Young, and so he was researching, he's writing a script about Australia's only known bushranger of Chinese heritage, which is Sam Poo. And so he went out there, spent 2 weeks. Look how good he is. He's even wearing the T-shirt. I love it. I gave him more T-shirts. And so he was able to find first-hand primary evidence that Sam Poo was at the Lambing Flat riots. And it completely changed the course of his script to make Young and Hilltops area the star of it. While he was there, a local theatrical group did a reading of the script, and they also screened some of Von's other films that he's already produced that were out there. Now they all follow him on Insta. He's currently doing the red carpet around town, so they all talk about Von and how that project allowed them to explore with safety a really difficult and complex part of the history out there. So,
thank you so
cool.
much. Thank you so much for sharing, Rose. That's beautiful. I'm gonna, if you can jump out of your screen, I
will stop share.
Thank you very much. It's amazing, and there are so many artists, and I'd love to see, all 130 that applicants. Would be amazing. But nice. I'd love to jump now to Kerry Ann because I'd love to hear her story, and just for everyone visually, that we're all wearing silly fabulous things today. I just thought I'd point that out, that because Tim's got a bauble on his ear and Kerry Ann's got this amazing headdress, and it's all very oh look, we've got extra things up down there. Thank you, Sue, for adding that on. That's gorgeous. Just in that celebratory mode. And look, thank you, Rose, for sharing those. I think having 5 at once and connected to country is really really important, and it also shows the feeling that after you started there in 2020 and when we jumped straight into COVID, so much that we were missing, so much that artists were missing, and your want to do 5 at once makes complete sense in terms of that really wanting to give back. So Kerry Ann, what's your greatest cause for celebration? Because I know there are so many for you. Please jump in.
Thanks, Sally. I'll start by audio describing myself. So I am white-skinned, pale-skinned female with very white, curly shoulder-length hair. I am currently sitting in my office, and so have files and things sitting behind me, and a security camera sitting there, which is patrolling our beautiful building. And I am wearing a emu feather flowers, which were produced by one of our local artists. Her name is, in fact, Deb Flower. And she's a Wamba Wamba woman from Deniliquin. And these are beautifully amazing seed pods and emu feather flowers, which I'm now wearing on my head. So our biggest cause for celebration in this down in this part of the world is our youth engagement. We've had several years now of working with young people in the region who in 2015-16 told us that they had no voice, that they were all treading water, there were no career opportunities. If they wanted to live here, they had to work in agriculture, and there was just no place for the arts. To hear now in 2022, having inspired amazing, incredible young talent doing all sorts of incredible things. So that's our cause for celebration, is not only have we survived 10 years of drought, followed by the COVID pandemic, followed by bushfires, followed by floods, which we are just hitting the tail end of. We've got these kids coming through doing amazing, incredible things. And our biggest achievement or the way that we've managed to do that is by giving kids a voice. So when they told us they had no voice and they couldn't speak in their own communities and nobody listened to them, we developed a radio station for them to have total control, total voice, and it's a youth-run, youth-led initiative. And it's taken us 2 years to get this little beast off the ground, but in 2 years we got our license this month, so we are now broadcasting on the dial, so that is major cause for celebration. And we received funding this year from Create New South Wales to do a mobile broadcasting van. So our original plan to set up multiple youth radio stations across our region is now turned into a mobile facility that we literally can take to any community regardless of size. So some of our very smallest villages, you know, that have 25 people in them, we can literally take the van and be broadcasting live from there. And we've got, yeah, it's just spectacular to kids now really considering their career opportunities. We've had one young girl that was our very first trainee, came through, a young 21-year-old woman from Deniliquin, had completed her traineeship this year and in June, and within a month was offered. We had her still working here, and then within a month of her completing the traineeship, she was offered a regional communications and coordinations role for the CFA, and a really, really amazing job for a very young girl. And she is now heading up the Women's CFA Leadership Group and has just gone from strength to strength. And she was also a finalist in the Traineeship Apprenticeship of the Year Awards as well, national awards. And yeah, it's just amazing to see these young people star. And to be given the opportunities to not only share their voices and their experiences, but to be taken seriously in their own communities. And it's nothing like giving a young person a microphone and a platform, and away they go and people listen. And it's just been, yeah. So that's our celebration. We're just in awe of these young people.
It's just beautiful. Thank you, Kerry-Ann. That's really, I can feel your kind of joy and pride for these young people coming through, you know. That's just fantastic. I'm so excited. And the tenacity that it takes 2 years, but it also takes listening. It also takes reading the room and realizing that their voices aren't there. and then why, and what that means to community. So it's a really big. Tim mentioned earlier that it's about access and pathways, which is exactly what it feels that you've done there. And I would add to that networks as well, in terms of kind of spreading that. And for that one young woman being able to get a new job and kind of progress even further, she can be what she can see, so that's really exciting, Kerry-Ann. Thank you so much. Tim, I'd like to jump back to you, because there's another really big thing that's launching in 2023 that I would love you to talk about in terms of transformation of space. So can you please jump in and have a chat about that for us?
Yeah, awesome. This is the thing that's giving me anxious thoughts when I go to bed every night and excited thoughts when I wake up every morning. Eastern Riverina Arts has been working on this for about 5 years, and we were successful this year in putting in a bid to our local council in Wagga Wagga, who are purchasing a historic old ambulance station. And our bid is to take that on as the lead tenant and set up a creative enterprise hub, a place where creatives create art, creative businesses are established and grow and succeed. And in fact, the business community comes in as a partner as well. So we'll have a tenant, our core tenant will be the Wagga Business Chamber, who are going to be a really important partner moving forward. Another key tenant is our local business enterprise centre, who will be running a makers market in the site monthly, and of course creating a fantastic market opportunity for local artists, makers, you name it. We look forward to leveraging that opportunity. I'll show you. I haven't got heaps of, it's a building site at the moment, so I don't have lots of pretty pictures to show you, but I will show you share a picture of me and a couple of members of our team standing out the front, smiling like we can't believe what's just happened. So those roller doors are of course where the ambulances used to be parked, and inside that is going to be a beautiful working gallery, workshop space, and a space where people can also create work. There are going to be 3 offices that are sort of plug and play offices designed for creative freelancers to take their laptop. People have been working and making stuff from their kitchen tables, plug straight in and start making your own work from day one. And then upstairs will be some 3 messy kind of wet dry art studios. That'll be a really great place and something that people have been crying out for in our community for a long time, for spaces for artists to create. And then I suppose the really exciting part for me, there'll also be space upstairs for 2 other offices for emerging creative organisations. We want to do our best to make sure that we can host organisations as they grow. There's 1,000,001 grants we're waiting to receive, and hopefully that'll expand our programming capacity in the site. But what we know for sure is that by hopefully the end of the first quarter, definitely sometime in the second quarter of next year, it'll be open, it'll be operating, and there will be a whole creative community making work in that site. So just a hugely exciting thing, and we can't wait to get started.
Tim, that's beautiful. Thank you so much. It's really talking about partnerships across industry is really important. But I was also thinking that cross-pollination of artists making, people being able to sell it, people being able to come in. It sounds really quite extraordinary. Can you tell us a little bit more about the extent to which this might change or shape communities?
Oh, I'd love to. I think the thing that I'm really proud of what we've done as an organisation, and this is, credit to a team who've all worked very, very hard for a long time, is we've gotten really, really involved in the business community of industry development and the capability development stuff, work that's being done by council, by state and federal governments as well. And I think one thing that we've really tried to do is position ourselves as an organisation who really is interested in understanding what our local RDA is trying to achieve, what our capability networks are trying to achieve, and understand what problems they're facing, and to pitch ourselves as a potential partner in solving those problems. And we know it, but often others don't, that artists are actually extraordinary at helping people solve their problems creatively. So one of the things that, but to do that, we've also had to really pitch ourselves as the leanest, meanest, most business-oriented organisation they've ever met. We work so hard to present in a really business-like way when we're working with these networks. And we have to, I'm participating in planning discussions and also economic development things. And the outcome that's brought, which I'm so proud of, is that we will end up, we've positioned ourselves really well as an organisation that can actually lead and take on all the risk and all the opportunity in this site, and bring in these quite significant business development organisations who are actually very happy to be partners, but let us lead and drive the future of the site. One of the things that I think, that does in community is it makes us indispensable to a number of the plans and processes that council and the state government are working on, and I think that's right. That's where arts organisations should be and where artists should be. But secondly, it gives us that really real. I think the thing we always struggle with, and that artists find so hard, is actually being taken seriously as local entrepreneurs, as business people, as people who deserve to make a crust and seek financial compensation for their labour. So I think we've really worked pretty hard to flip that script and go, this is a place where work happens. It just so happens that it'll be creative work, but this is a place where work happens, and it's an economic driver for our community. And I just have absolute trust in our creative community that it's ready to step up and take charge in that place.
Thank you, Tim. They're really important things for us to remember, in terms of you being able to drive the site, but having business partners or the business community as partners is incredibly important. And it's almost a different language we have to remember sometimes, in terms of really being articulate in that way, and driving it in a particular way that involves business and also allows that to be part and parcel of that creativity that's pushing this new. I love the Creative Enterprise Hub. It's an awesome title. It's really great, because it's not just making, but it's also making individuals. It's also making humans be so much more than one-dimensional. I was thinking about people taking the lead, and I'd really love to jump back to you, Kerry-Ann, about asking a similar question about how your youth radio station has changed and shaped the communities you work with.
I think the biggest part about this is and what we've been able to do with the radio station. So it's not just about giving them a voice, and we literally have given them a literal voice, but it's all the training and that goes alongside that, because you can't obviously run a radio station without the skill sets. And so we've been working across all of our communities providing training. And particularly during COVID, the important part about this was that we employed artists to actually do the training. So we've been using local artists and some not so local artists. So we have presenters from literally all over the country and artists all over the country during COVID who were providing training to young people. So that's been a big part. So it's been about keeping our local artists employed particularly during those lockdown periods, and upskilling young people. With that upskilling, and when we formed what we call a youth leadership team to run the radio station, and they make all decisions related to the radio station, the programming, the training, what's happening, all the projects that emerge from this. And there's literally been more projects than I can think of. The radio station, in terms of grant funding, receives more funding than we do as an organisation, because the kids are literally at it all the time, and to the point where I'm exhausted, I have to say. So the energy that they bring is really amazing. But I think with all of that comes that self-confidence, the self-belief, and the empowerment that, you know, just a few short years ago, these kids didn't have. And when I say kids, I'm talking, we have participants from sort of 13 through to 26. So not all of them are kids. So there's young people of all ages. What they have done, and through this, has helped the communities from right across the region understand how connected these young people are, how smart they are, how clever they are, how they can actually run things, that you can hand them and be, they can participate in things and actually take responsibility. And I think for all of them, and for a lot of the young people that have participated in the training programs, it's about recognising that there are creative industry career opportunities for them locally, because part of this has been connecting with radio. You're talking with businesses, and you're looking at sponsorship and advertising and all those sorts of things that go with media. And so there's this connection now with businesses to not only the radio station, but to the young people involved in the radio station. We have education now connected in. We have further education providers, tertiary education providers, now looking and working with us to enable the tasters that we put the journey that we send the participants on, now looking at those further education opportunities. So it becomes a whole of community engagement, which is being driven by young people. It's not being driven by me. We older people sit back and act as mentors for them. They can come to us at any time, and we mentor them and provide all sorts of opportunities and connections and networks for them. But they're doing it, they're driving it, and they're the ones that are being recognised as the future leaders that they are. And I think it puts our communities in a really, really powerful place. And I just want to pay homage to the flag that you're wearing, Sally. So a couple of weeks ago, we had the Hay Mardi Gras, the Rainbow on the Plains Festival. Now, for those that don't know Hay, it's a small rural community of about 2,000 people. It sits on the Murrumbidgee River. It's been inundated with floods for a number of times. We didn't even know that the event was going to go ahead. The event didn't run for 2 years because of COVID. And this was the first event back, and then we got hit by floods. So it was just traumatic, to say the least, but we got there in the end. And with that, we also had our mobile broadcasting van in operation, although not completely decked out, but enough equipment to be able to run the live broadcast from the event. And we had 2 young people from Hay that had previously taken part in the training program, and they ran the outside broadcast for the day, and they got to interview all of the Mr. Gay Pride Australia participants. One of the young girls, as part of the training that she undertook in the lead up to this, got the courage to actually, she produced a podcast series about the LGBTI community and living in a small rural kind of redneck kind of part of the world, and being somebody who identifies as part of the LGBTI community. Now, she produced a podcast series and used that to come out to her family and to her school. She has interviewed all of the Mr. Gay Pride participants, and she's going to be working with the winner of Mr. Gay Pride and one of the runners-up of Mr. Gay Pride on a number of projects that will be working with the AFL and a new music release for a young man who's just released some new music, working out of Melbourne, and he's part of the multicultural community, and so she's now going to be working with him, producing a whole new podcast series and things that are literally going to go national. So the change is amazing, and it's just being able to be a part of what the young people have been able to lead in a community like Hay. I mean, the whole event there has been run by young people. So it was initiated by one of our original leadership team members for the radio station, and he initiated this project and this event several years ago, and it has now become this amazing, significant event that all the Mr. Gay Pride people want the announcement of the winners to come back to Hay every year because the whole of community is so embracing. It is power, and it's overwhelming to actually witness and to be a part of. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. Like, I could rave on all day.
Thank you, Kerry-Ann. It's really quite incredible. You've touched on so many things there, from young entrepreneurs, that intergenerational sharing between artists, which is incredibly important in terms of training and facilitating that, and that the role of your role is one of facilitation and actually letting youth drive what the outcomes are and what's needed to happen. And that trust, in terms of trusting community, that they know what they want, they have a voice, let them find it, I think is really, without being dictated, I think that's really incredibly exciting. It's really inspiring, and I love you talking about future leaders, because they are future leaders. They'll be leading in a minute. So it's really important, those facilitating those pathways and those ways forward is just extraordinary. I love hearing, everything driven by the young people, and this joy, this pure joy that just comes from that, both from the radio station and from the festival. I think it's just extraordinary. I'm going to jump to Rose now, and I'd just like to ask you, Rose, about how arts and culture bringing joy to your community.
Before I do, can I say, obviously I was very aware of both Tim and Kerry-Ann's projects, but, we often have meetings where there's so many crowded things to say. The chance to listen to you both talk is just it just reminds me why we all do the work we do. Kerry-Ann, the clear joy that you have with the outcomes you've seen in your town, and that really is, it's exactly why we're all in our positions and why we work so hard to look like we're gliding around, making things easy for others. Just the sheer, we're all going like this underneath the water, but because really I think in the heart of it all is the fact that we all know, I can see the powerful force of arts and culture and how it actually transforms where we live, and the places that we inhabit. And one of my favorite little, probably a little bit daggy quotes, because it's all about potholes out here in the regions at the moment, but is I really love having roads, but I like having places to go. And it's so true that that's what the arts is to us all. It's the place where you get out of the car or off the bus and actually have an experience. So back to the, I suppose, just with one particular example with the artist in residence, and this is, you know, beautifully set up, segue by Kerry-Ann as well, is one of the things I love about that artist in residence program, it allowed our partner venues to create trust with us, who look at creative problems, problem solving, or creative solutions to really complex problems for them. I think, you know, case in point is one exploring the very difficult histories out in Hilltops. But the other one that we had as well is we had a young trans author and illustrator who came to probably one of the most conservative organisations in our entire area, which was the Retford Park mansion run by the National Trust, which was gifted to the community by the Fairfaxes. So you couldn't think of a more kind of symbol of, you know, the ruling class and conservatism. And they chose to have a young artist there who was creating. They created a graphic novel where people from all parts of the rainbow spectrum were the characters, and the mansion was a character in what was a pretty full-on horror graphic novel. And we had workshops that were attended by local young people. We had a little mini exhibition, and so to provide an opportunity for the National Trust to have that trust in us to do a project like that at a place like that really demonstrates the power of what arts and culture can do in our communities, because we provide those opportunities because they're not obvious to a lot of people. It's a really opaque path of how do you get to a fabulous outcome and show that you want to embrace difference and change and radical ideas or different thinking. And so I'm really proud that SCA kind of not always taken up, but we provide those options for our communities and organisations that we work with.
Rose, that's so beautiful. Thank you. That idea of, or the reminder of this transformational force of arts and culture, I think is really, really important. And you're absolutely right. This is why we do what we do, and you can feel it palpable, you know, when you're talking, and with Kerry-Ann's projects as well. It's quite extraordinary. Tim, I'd love to jump back to you in terms of using that transformational power, and just a quick discussion on legacy. What sort of legacy would you hope to be leaving with these projects that you've been celebrating?
Well, yeah, I think there's two clear things. One's about our legacy as an institution, as an organisation, and one is about the legacy in the community, and they're both as important as each other. I mean, the people, let's talk about them first, because that's all we have. I would hope that Eastern Riverina Arts has a positive impact in the lives of emerging, not necessarily younger, but emerging creative practitioners who are going to, hopefully because of some things that we've done or some connections we've helped them make, see that choosing to invest creatively is not just a viable but a really life-giving thing for them to do, a way to contribute to their community, and also to have a really great life, which I don't know that we talk about as often as we should. Institutionally, organisationally, I see more and more how incredibly privileged we are whenever we are interacting with other organisations to build trust and hopefully dial the needle a few inches towards opportunities for creative people. And one little tiny example that I can give that it's just come to fruition, and I'm so chuffed about it. The wonderful sculptures by the SIG experience that so many people know and love, came into our region a couple of years ago with this pitch. They wanted to set up a sculpture trail throughout the Snowy Valleys, the sort of Tumut, Tumbarumba region. Gorgeous place. And of course, it was hit really badly by the 2019 fires. And so they pitched this as an economic development, a tourism project as well. So we got in with them and helped them, I shepherded them through to talk to council, to forestry, to national parks, to the other kind of key stakeholders in the region, helped them drum up all their letters of support and all of that. And anyway, that was all very well and good. But as I got to understand the pitch they were making, I realised they worked from a very, I don't know, in a non-judgy way, I would use the word an elite model, where they were talking about established sculptors from all around the world having their works displayed in our region. And I begged them to consider opportunities for local sculptors, local artists as part of their project. And we went back and forth and blah, 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 blah. And in the end, they carved out a little bit of their proposed budget and came up with this really fabulous project, which is commission opportunities for local artists to set up an installation and programs within local shops right across the Snowy Valleys. So 5 shop fronts will have 3-month-long installations. They've just, they put out they were skeptical that they'd get proposals. They got 35 proposals from artists within their region, and bloody hell, they were good. And so they've just settled on 5 of them, and I'm just chuffed. And so, you know, you look at little things like that and think, if we can just, through the course of our work, help shift, just nudge things a little bit, I think that that can have a big impact down the track.
That's a huge impact, and that's really, not just tenacity, but really having a vision for the future, and a vision also for your local communities and how they can be seen locally and nationally, and supporting artists in that way. That's awesome, Tim. Thank you for sharing that. That's really exciting. We've got about 7 minutes left, so I would love if any of the panelists would like to either add to what brings joy, how arts and culture can bring joy, or any other final words that you would really like to say. Tracy, I don't think are there any questions at the moment, or no? If there's any burning questions from anyone that someone can answer.
Something's just coming in now, though. Right. So some interesting feedback from, I think it's Sue, about what an amazing conversation. So, and using the example of some work that happened in the Monero Council. Notice I know how to say Monero, not like the car. So the question comes through, don't think I've ever received it to the previous sessions. Just saying you're all so fabulous. So yeah, thanks for the really, really lovely comments there that I think everybody can read in the chat box. I don't think it's a specific question, but looking at, maybe linking with Rose, because if somebody's in the Monero, they're obviously going to be quite close to you as well. So I think that's one of the interesting things with this, is looking at some of the potential links that can come out of these sort of discussions.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tracy. That's great.
If I just may
jump in, please.
Yeah, I think that's one of the, just listening to what everybody's doing, I think coming to that question of legacy and that whole connection and connectedness. And I know certainly from our point of view that community connection is probably the biggest legacy outcome from the work that we're doing. But it's also about getting our communities, not only individual communities and the people within them connected, and young people connected, right through to the business community, etc., but also having communities that are isolated and remote connecting to each other and sharing their successes and participating and work together. So we're a very large geographic area, but a very small population, and we've got about 40 little towns and villages. You know, our largest population centre is here in Deniliquin, which is just 7,500 people. So, you know, we're not that big, but we have some incredible opportunities for connecting, and it's about being innovative and thinking differently about how we connect up as communities. And you know, good on Regional Arts New South Wales for these types of forums, because it does enable us to connect. And you know, the people sitting here today, I know I can see some faces from nearby high school, nearby areas that we do connect in with, and it's really important that you know I'm getting to hear some stuff from Rose that I'm just going, oh, I'm going to talk to you about that. So thank you for this opportunity. It's really, really great, and I'm hoping that we can all stay a bit more connected.
Thanks, Carrie-Anne. That's really beautiful and so very important. Rose, did you want to jump in?
At the risk of being irreverent, I was hoping that Tim would audio describe his bobble at the side of his ear, because we missed out on that particular chestnut of wonder. And you know, Tim, over to you.
Oh my gosh, I neglected to audio describe myself. My apologies. I'm a pale-skinned, middle-aged white man, the most interesting kind of human in the world. And I'm wearing, among other things, a Christmas decoration made by, shout out to Britt Heffron, the comms officer at ERA, who whipped up some staff headshot themed Christmas baubles decorations. That include, I've got Santa dabbing on my ear. And I'm really, really chuffed about that. Thank you. And I'm sitting in a chair.
Thank you, Tim. That's beautiful. And thank you for the beautiful irreverence, everyone, because it's really important to celebrate what we've been up to with a lot of seriousness, but also with a lot of joy and fun. And there's been so many things. I'm just going to do a quick little recap. Now, just talking about that community connection is incredibly important and legacy, but coming back to what Tim said at the very beginning about access and pathways, which seem, and you're all doing that in very different ways, whether it's a sculptures by commissioning local artists, whether it's artists in residence, letting young people take over the radio waves and supporting that in a way that it's a really beautiful success. There's so many incredible ways in which you're connecting and using arts and culture in this incredibly transformational way. I think it's really exciting. It's exciting also that you're in quite different parts of New South Wales, and I think that there's so much spread there. That's so many things that are going on, and we can learn from each other. I know I've learned so much tonight from all three of you for so many incredible journeys that you've had with these artists as well. I can imagine that they're transformational on a personal level, because that's what we do in terms of connecting with artists, with businesses, and also forging pathways, intergenerational pathways. So it's just quite incredible to hear all your celebratory stories. So thank you so much. I think I'll do a final wrap up. So please thank Regional Arts New South Wales for presenting this panel and all the Country Air panel sessions for 2022. Thank you, CEO Dr. Tracy Callanan, for instigating this series and for managing the chat box this evening alongside Julia. Our esteemed speakers, thank you, Carrie-Anne Jones. Thank you, Tim Kurilovich. Thank you, Rose Maher, and for sharing and celebrating your projects, your achievements, and your communities. Thank you to the audience for being here with us and for leaving your cameras on so we can see some of you. It's really beautiful. Thank you for telling us which country you're calling in from, because it's a really important part of who we are and what we do. We look forward to welcoming you back in 2023 for fresh conversations on the Country Air. So thank you for tonight. Merry Christmas. Have a really safe holiday and good night, everyone.
And I just want to jump in as well and say thank you to everybody for coming, but thank you to Sally, who has led the discussion on all 5 of our sessions on the Country Air. Thank you for tonight's panelists. I think you summed up why we are passionate about working in regional New South Wales in the arts. So thank you everybody for who's been involved.
Thanks so much.
See you in 2023.
See you in 2023. I hope to see you again soon.
Bye.